Sahana vavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Sahaviryankaravavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So 3 men were building a building, and one of the men was asked, "What are you doing?" And he said, "You know?" He said, "I'm putting bricks together. I'm doing construction work." The other was asked, "What are you doing?" "I am building a temple." Okay. The third one was asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "I am facilitating the connection between God and man." One thing, different attitude. This is karma yoga. How you do something makes all the difference. Now you got to feed the man who's building construction. You got to keep him happy. You go to the man who's facilitating the connection. That man is happily doing work. Independent. You want to help me? Thank you very much, but I'm good. I like what I'm doing. It is that close to changing how you feel, how you do your work. So, how do you want to do your work from now on? Whatever that work is, meeting parents, meeting your partner, going to work, driving on the road, traveling. How do you want to do that? It's all given to us. And in so doing, this ability to do, we receive consequences. And these consequences are very complex. You cannot trace what is what. You don't know what comes from where, or how it was originated, or where you got it from. For example, there's a story of one man was very nice, very kind person, and he did very good things all the time. And so he acquired a lot of punyam, and he went to heaven. And he was very happy about this. "Oh, I am in heaven, this is so wonderful." But then he saw his neighbor in heaven too. And he was very angry because he saw this neighbor of mine, what is he doing in heaven? He was a reckless taxi driver. I was doing all the good works and pleasing people and doing good things and following scriptures to the line. This fella, he just gets into his Uber or whatever and he just drives recklessly like there's no tomorrow. How is he in heaven? So he goes to talk to the locals, who know their things. Why is everyone up there? And they say, "You see, this fella, the moment someone got into his car, he converted so many people into devotees. They all started to pray when they got into his car. He was driving so recklessly. Oh God, please, 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 save me, save me, save me." He converted so many. See this? It's complex. We don't know. We have this idea, if I do good, I'm going to heaven. But it's much more complex than that. Therefore, it's something that we can take a laugh at. This is cosmic joke of Ishvara. So, Krishna wants to say here that with an attitude change, you can help improve your lifestyle just by shifting your attitude. And then he says, now I think we've done verse 13. Let me see what else he says. Have we done verse 13? he describes a person who's worked on himself, and we've done 4 kinds of results that a person can get, and to be okay with those results. And then it leads to pride, if you get more of or equal to, and the other leads to self-blame. Okay, so we can then move on to the next verse. And then verse 13. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitraha karuna evacha nirmamaha nirahankaraha samadukha sukhakshami. So far we discussed who is a bhakta, who is the one that relates to Ishvara, and what have we said so far? They are keeping with swadharma. That means every action they have an adjustment according to what is to be done, and that swadharma is also painted or percolated by samanya dharma. So whether you're a spouse or an employer, an employee, a client, a teacher, a student, a friend, every one of those roles has a certain role to play. But all of those roles are enveloped by samanya dharma, increasing the well-being for myself and also for the other person. So this is how we go about aswadharma. We talked about this. As to how to devote, we also said through prayers. That means through asking for Lord's help, because then you're acknowledging the presence of the Lord's presence, and thereby it becomes more part of your life. We also talked about Ishvara prasada buddhi. That means karma palatyaga. Whenever something comes into my life, I can appreciate that it is coming from an infallible law, which is neither fair nor unfair. It just has to operate as has been doing for millennia in order to take care of everyone's needs. And therefore it's not wise to expect only more of or exact, because I can equally get less than and opposite. So this means when I want to go up to someone and have a discussion, even if you're coming from rationality and you're completely clear, that person may not respond as you wanted them to. In that case, one needs to take a pause, and maybe come back a little bit later, or try a different strategy in order to reconnect. And this is not just relevant to one person, it is relevant to your own life. So this means that whatever comes to me, whatever results of this Vedantic knowledge, whether I go home and I'm, transformed, at whatever level you feel transformed, that is worthy of gratitude. Ishvara has still given me some form of result. Sometimes you may not even feel any kind of transformation, because there's a certain time factor between the time I've ingested it and by the time it actually digests and becomes part of my being. Therefore, we need to take some patience in our life, and this patience can go up to 1, 2, 3, 4 years. That's okay. The guru is here. The guru's job is to take care of the students, and therefore we can have trust, because this tradition is so vast and so well made that you simply cannot not have any support. So there's always support. Teachers also need support. We all need support. Therefore, we are in this together. We're on the same boat that is guiding us to come closer and closer and closer to the truth. Therefore, Ishvara prasada buddhi is having a sense of gratitude of whatever comes into our life, but also coming to the point that this is coming from infallible laws, and therefore I can trust it. It is fair indeed. It is a fair system. End of the day, it is a fair system. We may not understand it immediately, but a little bit later, maybe a year later, you will understand it was fair. That closure of that chapter that happened was actually a good thing for you. It allows you to open up new doors to new things, and it is a brilliant opportunity to now continue your life. With a fresh new perspective, you are given more opportunities, more possibilities to collapse, and thereby it is all given to you. And Ishvara says, here, open my door, and all you have to do is just open your door little by little, and there's a compounding effect. The moment we open it, it doesn't seem much, but you all know that when you put a little bit of money in the bank account, and to the compounding interest, it very quickly accumulates, and thereby this is how results work. So if we ever feel that there is lack of progress, it is not true. It's only a illusionary sense that it's a lack of progress. The fact is, if you look at your life, if you journal your life, you will recognize that within the 5 years, you have made significant changes. Some of us have found Vedanta in the last 1 year, in the last 2 years, and yet we can testify that we have definitely grown, exploded in our journeys of self-development. So it's absolutely possible, and even better, your age does not matter. Whether you're 40, 50, 60, 70, or 80, a person is equally capable of ascertaining and understanding more. As Monita said when she asked that person of 40 years at Paramarthananda, I am still learning something, so we can learn from him. Therefore, this knowledge is still here for you every day. And we also talked about emotional intelligence, and we said emotional intelligence is about naming your emotions, knowing what am I feeling right now, and having the courage to speak them out, to share them, because as long as they remain bottled up and no one is there to hear them, then it may seem like you can independently resolve them, but because we are a species of communion, we indeed profit and benefit by sharing with someone that we trust. We also spoke about emotional intelligence being ability to pause without reacting, especially when we are emotionally high. In that moment, we need to pause and think, because the consequences may indeed come back to us. And therefore, then the next statement, he lists and says, Bhakta has the disposition of a friend, Maitraha. Okay, now what is a friend? It is one who is friendly. That means who is that one that is a bhakta, who has gone through this journey? They're a friendly person. They don't put themselves above you. You feel like a friend in their presence. They are at your level. They don't need you to sort of act like, a small person and they're a big person. They are with you. And thereby you can trust them. You feel safe in their presence. And you want to kind of share your stories and you want to benefit from that relationship. And this is someone that is a normal, down-to-earth bhakta person. Therefore, they don't say, this is my time, my effort. They just want to actually spend time with you. This is a bhakta, because the bhakta recognizes you as one of the manifestations of Ishvara, just like they needed somebody's time, the parents' time, the teacher's time, and so on time. You equally deserve their time, and they're willing to give that time to you. In fact, it is pleasing to do so, because whenever you help someone, is that not pleasing? It is very pleasing, because you are being summoned the highest purpose of living in that moment, and thereby being that presence of someone, as I said, Vada, who can speak something and you can speak something, then you both benefit and you both love that, because you're both growing but also connecting simultaneously, and that's a very nice relationship to have. And then he says bhakta is compassionate, karuna. Now empathy is a natural human state. We are all born with empathy. We all have empathy. It gets covered through samskaras, it gets covered through society, it gets covered through conditioning, it gets covered through media, but we all have this natural sense of reaching out. When someone's in pain, you feel that, don't you? You feel that because that is a natural human emotion, the ability to connect. And that emotion, taking that outwards, reaching outwards, that becomes compassion. As long as it's here, felt, that is called empathy. When I actually stand on my two legs, open my mouth, and reach out to help you, then that's called compassion. Therefore, we can start to also use these two words, which often get mixed up, now properly. I do have empathy, but unless I go up to you and do something, offer my time and service, it is compassion. How do you know it's compassion? Because when you do go out, you don't feel like your time is being wasted. You don't do to protect your time. You're just genuinely there to help without any concern of your own time. Then it becomes compassion. The moment there's an agenda, if somebody asks me for money and I give them, and I have a future agenda, or there's a dislike, but I feel obligated to help them because they're my family member, then that is not compassion. That becomes an unhealthy obligation. Therefore, this is also aspect of a person who is a bhakta, natural reaching out. And then there are several forms of distortions when it comes to empathy. In fact, anything can have a distortion. The first distortion is that when we reach out to one person, we sometimes feel we have to reach out to somebody else too. We have to reach out to everyone now. This is a distortion. It's not true. Just because I help one person, now I need to help everyone. I only can help one person at a time. No more, no less. Whoever is in my proximity, in my circle of influence, that is the person to be helped. Therefore, we don't have to feel guilty now that there are 10 people who are asking for help and you sort of feel this need to help. There is no need for this. Another distortion of empathy is when other people suffer, one finds happiness in that. There is suffering in some form or shape, and it becomes the source of my own pleasure. There was a case during COVID where we were all locked down, and there was one old lady, which I heard a story, and she became seeing everyone else locked down because she's at home all the time and she's got maybe nowhere to go. She suddenly became very, very happy because seeing everyone else in her own state, she was now, super pleased about that. Now, what this shows you is that if I take pleasure seeing somebody else suffer, that means that before I was already feeling small, and now that they have sort of reached my level or even underneath me, in that contrast, I suddenly feel as though better. But it's not an actual betterment. It's just in contrast to somebody else's state, I feel better. So that already shows that my self-esteem was lacking. I had an inferiority complex. Similarly, when others' happiness makes you unhappy. Others' happiness makes you unhappy. So the first one is others' suffering becomes a source of pleasure. This is where others' happiness makes me unhappy. So if I go to a wedding and I see people cheering and they're all dancing and I'm at the back going, I should be over there. I'm jealous. I want to be over there. And I'm feeling small now. So again, what does this show? Even though I have empathy, I do feel their joy, but it's distorted because it lets me know that I was already feeling small. And now in contrast to being reminded that there is somebody even happier than my normal smallness, now it feels even smaller. Therefore, when I get reminded, wow, there are people who are happy, instantly I get reminded of my smallness. So these are both distortions that we have to rid of. If we feel unhappy because we see somebody else thriving, then what you do is very counterintuitive. And this comes from Swami Dayananda. He said that go up to them and congratulate them, because that lets your mind recognize that this is what I want. I congratulate you. Congratulations on your success. I wish you even more happiness. You're going totally against the program. And so in a sense, it cancels out the program that is keeping me small. Something that we wouldn't think about, and yet it is a brilliant solution. So next time, if we feel something towards another person's success or happiness or knowledge or stature, then go up there and you may even make friends. I just want to admire you, sir or ma'am, that you are so brilliant, and I am inspired by you. I aspire to be like you. What is your biggest teaching lesson that you have for someone like me? What is the biggest thing that you can give to someone like me? And they will love that because you're asking them for advice. And you will walk away and you will be surprised how good you will feel. Therefore, we intercept this process and we hugely benefit from working with the laws. And the highest use of compassion that we can do is to contribute to someone's happiness. So therefore, this empathy program becomes something that is offered to you to exercise, and by making other people happy, small things, you vastly benefit. So in order to feel somebody's happiness, you have to feel that first. That's empathy. Yeah, the ability to recognize someone's happiness, that ability is empathy. But
always using a positive. Empathy is always like a positive thing.
yeah, empathy is a recognition of someone's pain, or someone's joy, or your own pain and joy. And that recognition can be distorted through one's own program. So in that sense, empathy is a natural human emotion, but like anything, it can turn, like love, it can turn into control. Empathy can become an indicator of someone's happiness, but then I add another program, what that means. That is not good news for me, because it lets me know how small I am. Okay? So it's not like empathy is good or bad, it's just an indicator, ability to feel somebody else's pain or joy. But then on top of that indicator, we add our distortions. Yeah, so you're right, empathy doesn't get sort of corrupted, but our distortions, mask it. Free from doership. So this is nirmamaha nirahankaraha. In other words, freedom from a sense of mine, and freedom from this superiority. So they don't have this sense of this is my body, this is my life, and this is my success, because they recognize it doesn't pay you to have an unhealthy I sense. It doesn't pay you. It doesn't pay you to have this strong sense of my knowledge, my luck, my wife, my kids, my friends, my partner, my happiness, my house, my country, my culture. It doesn't pay you to have that in a very rigid, strong way, because the fact is you are put in this place, and that is a grace of Ishvara. That is Lord's gift. And besides, it's not yours, is it? None of it is yours. So that's a fact. The fact is it's not mine. It's only entrusted to me for a short period of time. Knowing that, we can then next one, have equanimity in pleasant and unpleasant situations. Sama dukkha sukha. How do you have relative equilibrium in pleasant and unpleasant situations? Would you like to contribute? How do you have relative?
When you know everything is Ishvara, and whatever it is good or bad, it is his prasada, then that sama dukkha sukha kshami.
Very nice. So recognizing it comes from the infallible laws. In that case, it's not personal, and that makes it a lot more bearable, and it doesn't take it so it's my fault and I'm being punished. So it's coming from all-knowing, all-powerful Ishvara. You don't always know whether it's a negative thing. It can turn out to be a very good thing for you. It could be the next movement in your life. Therefore, and usually 5 or 6 months later, this becomes quite obvious. We need to give ourselves some time. Okay? And then one who is naturally accommodating or forgiving. In other words, kshami, naturally accommodating and forgiving. So how do you become naturally accommodating towards different people? Simple. Understand that everyone is at their level. We could have Dvaitin, Advaitin, Vishishtadvaitin, this man, this woman, that woman. They're all at their level. This is a fact. You and I were two at some level once upon a time. Therefore, we can now use in fact, it's our duty, because when you come to Vedanta, it's now your duty to think for somebody else, to think higher thoughts. The time of irrationality in Vedanta, that is gone, because irrationality belongs to much kind of relatively beginner stages. So it's now your job to not, for example, what do I mean? To when someone's irrational, what do we then do? We become irrational ourselves. You relate to this? Someone becomes irrational, and it gives me permission to become irrational also. No. The higher you rise in wisdom, it is your job to remain equanimous, to remain wise. So if someone becomes irrational, it's my job to recognize and point out, this is not a conversation that I wish to go through. It doesn't sound right. And I'm not willing to engage, for example, in this until, maybe tomorrow when the situations change. That's enough. Otherwise, to kind of try to fight that doesn't work. Okay? So naturally accommodative towards people's imperfections, because everyone has imperfections, whether we like it or not. And so we have to recognize not one person is perfect. Not one. The mind will always try to find a new feature that it wants to implant onto the face of the other, plant onto the other person. And our mind is going to be lovely at doing that. So we have to stop ourselves from this process. Like, let me find some feature and plant it. It doesn't work. Now, suppose, let's get a little bit more serious. How do you accommodate someone that is borderline totally irrational? There is no way you can get through them. They are, how do they call it? This psychological, pathologically, lying, or some psychological, condition, and no amount of rationale is going to work. Well, you have to first recognize where are they in the spectrum. There are 4 possible spectrums when dealing with difficult people. In fact, dealing with even yourself, dealing with anyone. The first spectrum is the person is in denial. So this means that they don't even recognize that there is a problem. So no matter what you say to them, from their standpoint, there is no problem, because their unconscious is so, hypnotized by the programming that it's completely normal, and it overrides their conscious filters. So they're unable to recognize that they are lying, unable to recognize they're changing the facts, unable to recognize that their irrationality is off the charts. In this case, if you try to tell them and speak through reason, it's not going to work. If you say you're lying, they will call you out, say, no, I'm not. They will change the facts. From their standpoint, there's no issues whatsoever. The question is, how do you get through this person? At least a little bit. The answer is through questions, innocent questions. Not through statements, but through questions. Questions that forced, because the mind is trained to answer questions. So when I ask these small questions, I wonder if, what else? I'm curious, what about this? You're not even interested in the answer. Just asking questions to stir up that mind, whether it is of a person that's already far out irrational or somewhere in the middle, questions. The second is they are defiant. A person in defiance will argue you. They know there is a problem. So a person in denial, they don't know there's a problem. A person in defiance, they will say there's no problem to you, but to somebody else, they will admit it. In that case, you need to bring in a third-party person, a mediator. The third is they're in a process of change. If a person is in a process of change, then don't give them a hard time, because they're changing very slowly. And you may be very impatient with their progress. Your progress is fast, their progress is very slow. So from your standpoint, it's frustrating. For this person, I need to encourage them. Because it's very tempting to discourage them. You're so slow, you're still doing this after 5 years? It's very easy. No. Encourage. Because as I said, the person who rises higher in wisdom, their job is to guide, to lead. Otherwise, you fall back at their level. So therefore, I encourage them, and now the third type is someone who's already accomplished. Now, you often think, a person is accomplished, I don't need to do anything. No. Because the person who's accomplished rarely gets praised. If you don't praise them once in a while, right, that can be very discouraging. Because they're like, hey, I'm doing so much good work and I'm accomplished, but no one's like really thanking me. So it can goes a long way to praise a person who is accomplished. They will like you, and they will, you will encourage them, you will motivate them to do even better. So, dealing with 4 kinds of people. Otherwise, if I don't have this model, how will I accommodate? How can I accommodate a person who is in denial? Unless I have a map, my accommodation is going to fail. So before we accommodate people's imperfections, we need a psychological map. Where are they, more or less, on the scale? Then it becomes a lot easier to accommodate someone who's in defiance, someone who's in denial. Verse 14, Santushtaha satatam yogi yata atma drdha nishchayaha mai arpita manaha buddhihi yaha mat bhaktaha saha me priyaha. The one who is completely satisfied. So this means the person's every aspect of their life is percolated by the presence of Ishvara. They see the manifestation of Ishvara in all that they do. And there's no need to prove oneself. Because I only prove myself when I see myself as separate. Therefore, I do what has to be done in this circle of influence that you find yourself in. Content. Why content? What would make you content? You tell me. What would say one who is completely satisfied, one who is satisfied? What would make you satisfied? In the reference of devotion, bringing Ishvara into your life, why would you be satisfied?
Whatever I achieve, whatever I lose, it will always be under the order.
Yeah. Whatever I got and whatever I lost nothing and I got nothing. Always prasada. All is a gift of the Lord. What else? What makes you satisfied because of this journey?
He is the higher intelligence. He knows what is best for me.
No, because Ishvara is not an entity. I know the speak of he knows, just leave it to Ishvara. He'll marry me off. It's up to our free will. Yeah. What else would make you satisfied in this journey? What makes you satisfied?
Understanding the truth.
Understanding the truth. Okay, be more emotional, more personal language. What gives you satisfaction?
When I feel aligned with myself.
You're aligned with yourself. Okay. Okay.
Knowing that you're whole, that there's nothing missing.
You knowing that you're whole, there's nothing's missing. So, however, this is chapter 12. So this is in reference to Ishvara.
Surrender.
So what does surrender mean? What do you mean by surrender?
See, whatever we get, it is his prasada.
Okay, so that's prasada buddhi. Okay. When I see old patterns resolve, when I see my life, when I see those hardships going away, when I see those jaws of the crocodile no longer holding me down, when I see I've done it, when I say, wow, what a long journey, I'm actually progressing, my mind is actually aligning to the scriptures, my mind is living this vision more and more and more, it is possible. When I see that I no longer look at people with a sense of contempt, but rather see joy and beauty, as Simon also says, I see the natural Ishvara expression in people, and I'm not trying to do it, it just arises. When I see that I'm never outside, I'm never abandoned, I'm never lonely from this whole, when I'm within a participator in this network, when I see that after death, there is no death after for me, I'm only coming back with Ishvara. When I see that I'm held in his lap right now, taken care of by him in this very moment, when I see how far, when I was born, how far I've come, born in an ordinary family, never could have even thought of coming to this place, and how it all unfolded. When I see breaking through all of those hardships and falling down and having the ability to get up, I never thought that was possible. When I see that little child who is no more dominating, but there's an adult who is able to finally come and blossom in this world. When I see that little boy who doesn't want to be seen and heard by the world, has so many thoughts to hide, and yet at this time I have nothing to hide. I'm an open book because I've worked on myself so much. When I see that I am this person who is coming closer to my eventuality of being one with him.
I think in one of the class you said, I found and found and found. Finally found you, Ishvara.
I found you. Finally I found you. I've been looking and looking and looking, and I went through zigzags in the whole city, and I found the road that leads to you. Me, small little person, and nobody, that one has done it. And continues. Amazing. One who is always united. In other words, whenever we slip out of this knowledge, we gently bring our minds back. The one who is attempting to be united with me. We slip out, we bring our minds back. We slip out, we bring our minds back. The opportunity is always given to you. The one who attempts to reunite oneself with me. That is a bhakta. Work, abhyasa. One who has mastery of the mind. In other words, the one who has mastery of the mind. What does this mean? The one who assesses a situation. What do I need to do? What information do I have right now? Do I need to wait a little bit longer before making a decision? I assess when I have all of the facts available to me, and I am relatively confident that the work, that the acts that I put out will bring relatively positive results. I assess, I act, and then I wait for those 4 possibilities. Assess, act, 4. Assess, act, 4. Assess the situation. Act. That's it. Your free will is now over. Now just wait for 4 possibilities to come. And when they do come, I still can assess what comes and then take appropriate action. One whose mind and intellect is resolved in me. In other words, one whose antahkarana, purification of the mind, is a means to an end. Because how else do you resolve your mind in Ishvara unless you perform antahkarana, shuddhi, purification of the inner instrument. Therefore, the one who recognizes the mind, emotions, they are a means by which I, absence of dramas, put it that way. Absence of dramas, absence of stories, absence of silliness. So who is this bhakta? They reduce their dramas, their stories. Not so much drama so much. They don't create all these random situations. The one whose buddhi is strong. Who else is this bhakta? One's logic is strong. They do the right things for the right reasons. Not for the wrong reasons. For example, I'm going to do good to be recognized that I'm a good person. That's doing good for the wrong reasons. Okay? So one whose logic is sharp. Chittam, the one whose memory is clean and available to memorize. Because the more we clean up our life, the easier memory becomes. Memory is your natural ability. So if we say, I can't remember, I don't remember, I can't recall, well, you can develop that. Just use it a little bit. Play some games. Sudoku, or what else do you have? Memory games. Yeah. Chess. Who likes chess? Ah, good. One person? Two? Ah, thank God. The one whose memory is available and, it can recall. Have you ever tried playing some recall games? Maybe we'll try some. Or think of something.
What?
Recall games, like memorizing. For example, your name is Jens and you like whatever, pizza. Your name is Tanya and you like astrology. Your name is Petra and you like boating. And then you gotta say that for every person. You gotta remember their name and what they like.
Yeah, let's do that. And we can spare your voice.
Yeah, whatever, right? So the point is memory. Memory, this bhakta has a good memory. Why? Because they've been in this journey for quite a while and they've worked on their memory. They've, thought about things. They take care of their mind. It's a clean mind. And so they're able to naturally remember things. And that's a very pleasant thing to have, memory. And also now that you say that, Vedic chanting, that's excellent. Sri Rudram or Bhagavad Gita memorization, kids learn this to develop their memory. And then ahankara, all of these functions, they get connected to the I sense. And this I sense, I'm not going to talk about what is the truth of this I sense now. This is Atma Bodha. So now this I sense can either be inflated or deflated. If it's inflated, then I have to deflate it. How do I do that? How do you deflate an inflated I sense?
Nothing is yours.
Nothing is yours. Good. It's not mine. How many people contributed to my success? So many. But I like this. Nothing is mine. I am a trustee. Now, if it's deflated, then you need to inflate it. How do I inflate it?
All is yours.
How do I
You
inflate?
are all.
I am that Ishvara.
Yeah. They can go now, different. But you're right. I'm a co-creator. Right? I co-create with Ishvara. I play a very important role in this universe. Or you don't have to put important. I play an important role in this universe. Yeah, you do. Like every bubble in the ocean does play a role, right? Without one bubble, the whole thing collapses. So inflated, I deflate it. If it's deflated, I have to inflate it. How? That is up to you. I'm just giving you some ideas. So a bhakta has a natural, healthy I sense. Neither up nor down. That's why they are friendly. Then verse 15. These are more traits of an accomplished bhakta. These are all traits of an accomplished bhakta. Or traits to develop. Either way you look at it. Yasmat na udvijjate lokaha, lokat na udvijjate chayaha, harsha amarsha bhaya udvegaihi, muktaha yaha saha cha me priyaha. The one who is free from fear. Okay. So the one who stops imagining bad scenarios, because they know that bad scenarios are imagination, and they have worked on their minds long enough to recognize I don't allow my imagination to make bad situations even worse. Okay? Something's going on with your health, I'm going to die, or you just make the whole thing like this big, terrible situation that's going to happen, and it stifles us. It prevents us from problem solving. Therefore, they are free from this, should we say, not from Ishvara srishti fear. They are free from jiva srishti fear. Okay, they have managed their subjectivities, their layers. They get added. Ishvara srishti is still going to be there. When my mom and dad get sick, I'm going to definitely fear of them, going one day. But of them going through pain and all that, it's just not necessary. That's just our personal creation. So in that sense, it is one who is free from fear. And people don't get disturbed by this bhakta. People don't get disturbed by you. Let's make it more personal. Why would people not get disturbed by you? What would make it such that people don't get so disturbed by you? How would you have to be that people don't get disturbed by you?
Natural.
You have to be?
Natural.
Natural. What does natural mean?
Not impose, not if it's not wanted, not imposing your knowledge on others. If they are not coming forward and asking.
Keeping your nose minding more others' business than ours.
Yeah, yeah. This is also. But I like what Ninu said. Not imposing, not sitting down. You know, let me tell you advice and how it is and what you should follow. Here's a phone number. Join this institution. What else? What would make you pleasing to other people? Accommodating their imperfections, right? Because they are going through a process, they're going through a stage, and especially with our dear loved ones, we need to apply this, because there's a tendency to disturb them. But if we are disturbing them, then we are sometimes imposing our expectations onto them, how they should be. So this person understands, I've got my own trajectory, they've got their own trajectory. Can I help? If not, it's not my duty to intermingle, to mix in, to bother, or any of that stuff. I don't need to play loud music, because the person is relatively sensitive. They got empathy, healthy empathy, sensitive enough to allow others to sleep, allow others to, not be disturbed. They have worked out their own needs. They don't depend so much knowing that the source of joy is always here. So they're no longer sort of clinging, and their need for attention, their need for recognition, it has reduced. It's now normal. They are content with themselves. And from that contentment, they will naturally be okay by themselves. If there's something to talk to, you feel that moment and you connect with the person. So people are generally very pleased by your presence. And then does not get disturbed by people. So people are not disturbed by the bhakta, and the bhakta does not get disturbed by people, because you worked out your own stuff, right? You know that people have imperfections. And when people throw you those imperfections, you recognize, hey, this is their stuff. They don't have to be perfect. That means you're comfortable in the company of other people. You're comfortable. What would make you comfortable in other people's company? You're comfortable with yourself. Okay? We talked about those stages. We start out life by being a victim. I'm a victim, I'm being punished, and so on. Through that victim mode, you go into a mode of self-reflection. So this means now you introvert, you come to yourself, and you start to work out your stuff. You start to reflect on what does it take to become a stronger, more discerning human being. And most people stop there. They think that's the end of the spiritual search. No. You then come back to the real world, and now you're a normal person who is able to give back to other people. Normal person. That person who you call normal, that person was once in a cave, in their own private cave, more or less. And the final stage is you become an inspiration for other people. You not only go back into the world, but you now start to inspire others with all of the hard work that you put into the world. Those are the 4 stages that makes the person as, one who does not get disturbed by people because they went through that stage. And then next verse, tomorrow, we will talk about more trace of an accomplished bhakta. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.